Hello, this is Matt Cannon with my thoughts of the day. I want to talk briefly today about something I've been contemplating, and that is the idea of self-development, the subject of self-development. When you think of self-development, you think of work that you have to do, you think of time that you have to spend, and oftentimes the goal of self-development, I think, is framed improperly. And so what I've been doing in my own thoughts of the day that I do, I share these with you because I'm taking the time to work on them in myself. And what I'm doing in my thoughts of the day is I'm just looking at things and I'm saying, what do I think of it? And then once I realize what I think of it, I bring it back here, talk about it. And so the thing that I'm kind of contemplating as I've been looking at it is self-development equals life enrichment. That's the reason you want to do it, because self-development is really all about life enrichment. And now what I want to take you down this path and journey so you can see where I'm coming from is Leonardo da Vinci. For instance, when I mention Leonardo da Vinci, what do you think of mostly? Most of us think of the Mona Lisa, or we think of something that's pretty remarkable that he did, but it's also like surface level. Like, it doesn't necessarily touch on everything that Leonardo da Vinci did. In Walter Isaacson's book on Leonardo, he talked about Leonardo had these notebooks and he would write to-do list, and on his to-do list he said, describe the tongue of a woodpecker. That's like totally random, totally unusual, but yet once you start learning about why he said that, you learn that woodpeckers, they basically have a tongue that's about 3 times as long as their beak or their bill or their head. Really, it's a long tongue, and they peck during the day. So Leonardo wrote in his notes, describe the tongue of a woodpecker. And if you realize the tongue of a woodpecker is long like that, it basically, when it goes in the beak and it goes inside the head, it wraps around and creates like a protective frame around the woodpecker's brain. And when you think of it, the woodpecker pecks pretty much non-stop. Like, the woodpecker is pecking at stuff that it's estimated that they peck about 20 times per second, and that's between 10,000 and 12,000 pecks a day. And the force on the head is about 10 times that would kill a human. So you think of the NFL, and they have helmets and they're protecting the brain, and we have new research that shows that the impact on the skull and the head is very dangerous. Well, think of a woodpecker is just pecking, and they said 20 times a second. It's unbelievably fast. If I'm out here in nature right now, and every now and then I have the privilege of seeing a woodpecker in the wild, and I have the privilege of just experiencing nature like that. And this is where a little detail like that Leonardo da Vinci wrote, described the tongue of a woodpecker, and later on Walter Isaacson, who wrote the biography of Leonardo da Vinci, is able to break down some of the things and the reasons why he was interested in that. When you think of it, when you just analyze it and you see how it works, it's easy to see that self-development, like learning curious things, learning little ideas, random facts about people, about figures of history, they give more depth. So don't think of self-development as only a tool and path to success. It will definitely do that for you. You'll make more money, you'll have more opportunities. There's so many things that self-development does for you, but think of it as a life enrichment. Self-development equals life enrichment. And so I wanted to leave that thought for you, and think of the bizarre and odd note that Leonardo da Vinci made in his journal. That's only one little fact that Walter Isaacson brought up on Leonardo da Vinci. But when you think of the little bit that most people know about a figure of history like that, well, there's so many depths and layers and details that if you dig deeper in, you get more enrichment. Now when you start reading other details of things, you start creating this lattice framework, like this lattice. If you think of a lattice fence. It's got like all these pieces interwoven with each other. Charlie Munger said he created what was known as mental models, which was like a lattice framework of ideas. So now you have this, Leonardo da Vinci wrote this note in his to-do list, knowing that he had these notebooks, and knowing how he wrote in those notebooks will give you a lot of more enrichment and wisdom in understanding how this great mind thought. But now when you see a woodpecker and you hear it, you tie it together and you know this little detail, like you never really thought of why the woodpecker doesn't hurt itself when it's basically banging against wood 10,000 to 20,000, 12,000, however many times a day it does it. And so now you know. And that gives you a little bit of enrichment. As you learn more and you read and you do self-development and you start bringing all these pieces together, you start creating this lattice framework, this mental model of where you can connect the dots, and it enriches the whole experience. It enriches the experience. This is why two people can connect on ideas. Like if you ever met someone who was a fan of something like you were, or a fan of a show like you were, and you connect with them, and next thing you know, you guys start talking about all the nerding out on all of the different details in culture and stuff like that. That's kind of what this is like. It enriches the experience. The more you learn, the more you self-develop, the more you kind of get into things, the more capable you will be to enrich your life. So self-development, it will bring you success, it will bring you benefits, but it's most importantly, I believe, as I've been kind of meditating and thinking about it, it's about life enrichment. If you want to have a good life, if you want to enrich your life, start learning, start self-development, and you'll see your life will get much more interesting, much more fun. Little details will mean something more to you, and you'll find yourself experiencing and feeling like you lived an enriched life. So this is Matt Cannon. These are my thoughts of the day. Signing out.